myself again. But it's the only way you're ever gonna learn. You look back and it's all in the past. I'm dwelling on the thoughts I cannot say to you. If I don't say the words, then maybe it's not true.
Good evening, welcome to NUFC Matters with me, Steve Wraith. It is Geordies here, Geordies there, and glad to say that we are joined by George, Steve, Stu, Steve, and Mitch tonight. Good to see you all, guys. I think Al Walid might be joining us in a bit as well. But as always, we are here to take your questions and talk a little bit about the last 7 days at Newcastle United. And don't forget, at 6:30, we will ask George. So if you've got a question that you want to ask George, get it across tonight, and we will pit your wits against his. And right on cue here is Al Walid as well. But good to see you all, guys. And George, I'm going to look back to last Friday first of all. Just the win against Wolves. Wolves chasing European places again. We knew it would be a tough test. It wasn't a high scoring game, but Newcastle managed to come out on top. And Chris Wood, as I have predicted, I'm definitely blowing my own trumpet this week, has managed to get a match winner. And that, I would say, is worth 25 million on its own.
Yeah. Well, yeah, you're absolutely right, Steve. I mean, it wasn't a pretty game, but that's because Wolves didn't want it to be a pretty game. They came with the full intention of closing the game down and silencing the crowd. And in the first half, they did it very well, in my view. I mean, I know that from a spy I had in the crowd, she says, Steve Hasty said at the middle of the first half was like watching paint dry. It was bloody awful. But nonetheless, less than a year ago, we would have lost that game because we would not have been able to keep our concentration like that. But we did, and we worked hard, kept at it. And the other thing about it is that people have been saying Chris Woods doesn't score this, doesn't do that. He has experience, and if you have any doubt about him having experience, just look what he did when they got the penalty. It was his ball. You'd had to have a bloody crowbar to get it off him. He was going to keep that ball and take that penalty and bang it in the net. There was never any doubt about that. Now, that's a huge example from one of your top professionals. You know, you see people taking penalties. I mean, I'll sometimes watch on the telly and I'll say to Marjorie, he's going to miss this. And sometimes they do, because you see the way people look at the goalkeeper, they look everywhere. But you just get a feel when they're just not on it. Nothing like that with Chris Wood. That ball was going in the back of the net, and it did. And he worked his socks off as usual. Now, interestingly, after the match and had how talking about Chris Wood, he said other things about him, which I think, I've been watching for weeks now and saying that when ESM's on, ESM doesn't always track back. So Chris Wood fills in the number 10 occasionally, and he can do that. But he also has the strength and the physicality to be able to get up back to lead the line when he needs to. And his goal came from that exact position. Nice ball to Joe Linton from the Brazilian, the other Brazilian, and then through to Chris Woods, and the goalkeeper brought him down. And by Jove, some of the commentators on the telly were trying hard to get it disallowed, the penalty, not as a penalty. It was terrible. Actually, I make a general comment about the match as well, which irritates me, is that how is it that we're a team that's in challenging for European soccer or in the top 10 or 8 or 6? It's only because they're not playing well. It isn't because we played well, we played good. It's because they're not playing well. And that irritated me on Friday. It was though we were just also rans, and in fact, that's not the case. We worked hard for that win, and it was an enjoyable win, one which I enjoyed very, very much indeed. And as I say, it showed everybody just what Chris Wood, in my opinion, has to offer. And also going back into the team, the other lads who joined us in January, Byrne and the left back
Target.
Target, both again performed magnificently. There was never any doubt that they were going to let we're down in that match. So it all round for me it was a hard working victory, and the one which I'm firmly convinced less than a year ago we wouldn't have survived. We wouldn't have gone through to the end with that. The other thing some of us alluded to in other places, and that is that I like little ESM. If only we could find an opportunity to play him where he plays for Peru, I think we get more out of him. But the trouble is, there's a queue of people to play in that position, and he's at the back of that queue, sadly. But again, he worked his socks off. The only slight criticism I have is that opportunities when he was chasing the ball and he got the ball, he had opportunities to close the game down. He didn't. He put the ball straight back into play when he could have done more useful things with it than he did. Instead of sending crosses in that were like Exocet missiles rather than looking for something more delicate or even just holding the ball up to slow the game down. But that's a minor criticism because I thought when he came on, he did quite well, actually. And as a team performance, well, that's what it was. It was a good team performance. Dubravka didn't have much to do. And then lo and behold, right at the end, he saved the 3 points because that shot would have gone in, there's no doubt about it. And he made a brilliant save. Now, that's something you need in a top keeper. Somebody that can be quiet for 89 minutes and then in 90th minute gets a really dangerous shot and he's able to cope with it. His concentration's still there. So I thought it was as I say, a great team performance. And I'd like to give I don't know about the rest of you, but I'd like to give a shout out to the War Flags lads. I mean, that is just absolutely tremendous entertainment before we've even kicked the ball. And it was amazing. The other things I'd like to give a shout out, those the silly buggers who took their flags home. Take them back, you silly sods. Take them back. That they seem to think that these are coming free. I mean, I like many others give those lads a donation when I get the opportunity to see them. But that performance, that entertainment before the match kicked off, what a way to wind the atmosphere up. I think that's absolutely fantastic. But a good, hard team performance and an enjoyable night all round for Newcastle fans.
Yeah, it certainly was. It was a big game, Steve. It was 3 defeats in a row on the road. Which to be fair was expected. We were still in a relegation battle, but it was a hard-earned win against a Wolves team who did very well at St James's Park in the Premier. Have done very well in the Premier League at St James's Park over recent times.
Yeah, well, I had predicted a draw because it's been a draw quite often with Wolves in recent times, and of the 3 home games that we've got, that was on paper the hardest one. And but I thought Wolves didn't really turn up. They seemed to be happy just to sit back and let us go at them, and I think that was good because then we realised that they weren't going to attack and we could be more adventurous and go at them. And I think it was a shame the first goal was chalked off with Chris Wood again. Some nice play and again an offside. It was a marginal one. That is the sort of thing where VARs go in these days to pick not the clear and obvious. It was they keep coming back and saying VAR is all about clear and obvious, and to me that looked when you look at it back, it wasn't clear and obvious that he was offside. But and he took that ball well because he was lying on the ground. And again, as George has talked, I think the role Almiron played in that was good. And I thought he put a decent shift on down the right. I expected Murphy to come on when Fraser went off. It was really disappointing, and you could see. I mean, when the second time when Fraser went down, it was just in front of where I sit, and he really looked sick. The fact that he was going to miss the rest of the game, and but I thought Almiron put a decent shift in. So obviously in training they've been working on how he can fit into the team. And I think was it when you were talking to Mick Lowes the other day, Steve? He was talking about could Bruno make Almiron, and make him a player that we want to keep at the end of the season? Because I think, probably over the last few games, we've probably expected that he'd be one of the ones that would be departing at the end of the season. But I think he put a decent shift in. I think Kraft had a decent game. He's probably on borrowed time in that position because it's looking like it might not be too long before we get Trippier back, which will be great to see him finishing the season off. But I think Kraft and Manquillo, both of them have put a decent shift in. But I thought Kraft played well on Friday night, and overall I think it was a deserved win. And I think the first time we've beaten a team in the top 10 this season, so that's progress as well as we move forward. And I'm hopeful that we'll win at least one more of these next two games and possibly both of them, and be really pushing to get into the top half, which is not out of the question.
No, definitely not. Mitch, different aspect for you, obviously sitting watching it out there, but yeah, I mean, was it a bit of a twitchy bum time when the clock was ticking down out there when you were sitting out watching the game?
Last 20 minutes seemed to feel like 45, that's for sure. But do you know what it is though? I think everybody's made some really good valid points there. I was going to say about Miggy, looked a very different player with Bruno on the pitch. Those intricate pass move, 1-2, 1-2. He was very happy doing that with Bruno all day long, and he looked a different player. I suspect Wolves came having looked at what happened against Spurs in that second half, and I think they wanted to come and play one on the break like Spurs did, and we didn't give them the opportunity. We were more compact. There was not so much space between the midfield and defence, and the full-backs weren't pushing quite so high up the pitch, so there was no space behind to exploit because we weren't chasing the game. I think Wolves came to try and play on the break because let's remember they were missing two key players for them too. So I think fair play to Eddie Howe for getting the tactics right as well. But once again, it comes back to simple things and square pegs and square holes and round pegs and round holes. Chris Wood must have balls like space hoppers to stand that long with the ball and with everything going on around him, and he still has the ball. And then he puts the ball down, cool as you like, slots it in. Coolest man in the stadium by a mile. I've been told by somebody at the club that not long after he arrived, they had a penalty taking competition to try and decide who was going to take the pens, and he won by a country mile, apparently. So I'm never in doubt who the penalty taker was once I'd been given that information. Apparently there was just no doubt. Everybody's like, yeah, he's taken. And I think that's his 23rd successful pen out of 25 in the Premier League, which speaks volumes. There's not many people, have records like that, taking penalties in the Premier League. And so got to give him credit. Steve was right about the goal he had chalked off. What a fantastic finish from the floor, And I think that was one of those ones where he was offside by a shirt sleeve, Where, by God, how many goals would Andy Cole have had taken off if he'd been offside by a shirt sleeve, Preposterous, really. That's not what VAR should be there for. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. I think we saw the game out. We saw the game out well. Again, as my dad said, Dubravka did his bit right at the death when he genuinely had very little to do up till then. So hard fought, well earned, and we can all breathe a little more safely now. It's still, I know mathematically we've got to get there, but I think there's so much going on below and people killing off each other that I think we can feel a lot more comfortable than prior to the Wolves game, shall we say. And I think that was a really nice performance. And I really did love the look of the interplay between Miggy and Bruno, to the point where Fraser is going to be out for a period of time. There's an opportunity, an absolute opportunity for Miggy to say, no, I still want to be part of this, please.
Yeah. Okay. Our lead, what was your view on the Newcastle result against Wolves last weekend?
It was a great game, and we noticed that the great about it is Eddie Howe got the team together after that Tottenham game, and this is great to fix things up. And it's like we didn't beat against Tottenham. It was like new start. And I don't like to talk about referees things, but I remember Moutinho and Fabio Silva. I don't know why, and with all their mistakes, they only got one book at last minutes. And also it was very not that great refereeing, and there is some buoyancy tactically. For me, I always see Manquillo. It's good to be as substitution. He's not good, great defender. In the right back, when Kraft back, I think he get that covered very well, because I think the both right and left back, especially the right back in Tottenham, it was the most of the mistakes. For Almiron, it was I don't know, it's the best word, maybe more like there was Bruno, Almiron, Joelinton, and the other side they have also players from South America. I think this is like it was a mini match inside the game, and we were and as Mitch says, and I noticed that well. I said, and I was afraid that my hand was in my heart. I was very afraid that Wood will lose the penalties, because he held the ball too long, and the goalkeeper trying to play with his nerves while they are waiting the VAR, which I don't know why they went to the VAR. It was very clear. Happy for this, and looking forward to beat Leicester as well.
Yeah, let's hope so. Stu, great to see you in the flesh, not once but twice, but we had a hat-trick this week. Good to see you.
Yeah, we did.
And you've been to the game as well. So what was it like being there firsthand again?
That was fantastic. I really enjoyed being there. The atmosphere. I managed to get there with my daughter. My wife was there with my son. So full family was there. It was on my birthday as well. The only thing that was missing was the 3-1 that I'd put 50 quid on, because I'd promised the food bank money after winning. But it was really good. And the change over the last few years, I remember a few years back, Mitch flew back over for it was the Brighton game, Mitch, wasn't it?
It was.
And the atmosphere was flat, and it was totally different to what it was now. And now and we keep talking about a throwback to the Keegan era, but it's getting up to be like that, where there's an expectation with the fans. And I want to say again what Steve Wilkinson said. I thought Kraft had a really good game. We all know Bruno was man of the match, but I thought Kraft had a good game. And when he did make an error, he didn't shirk his responsibilities. He turned round and went straight back chasing the player and win the ball back. Loved it. And regarding Chris Wood, I'm sure I said on the show when he was getting criticised for not scoring, I don't care if he doesn't score till the end of the season. Where would we be without him? And since he's joined, the way he's led the line, the way he's held the ball up, the way he's brought other people into play, he's not going to be the long-term answer. But he's to me, he's been fantastic since he's joined us.
Yeah, he has been fantastic. Munch, I think we will be devouring that particular subject on Friday night, amigos. And Ian Mearns will be back on Friday. Good to have Ian guesting on Friday. And for those of you demanding Keith Patterson's return, well, it will be happening in a couple of weeks' time. Keith's agreed to pop back on for a Friday night show. So there you go. Something to look forward to on NUFC Matters. Moving forward, Steve. Last but by no means least, of course, the Wolves game was an important 3 points, and I think with the accumulation of results over the weekend, especially Norwich beating Burnley, it had that feeling of cementing our place in the Premier League for next season.
Yeah, absolutely, Steve. No question about that. It wasn't a game for the purist. I think we can all certainly agree on that one. I mean, we had 41% of the possession we had, and we were at home. I think we only had, I'm looking here, we had 4 shots on target, 12 shots in total. To Wolves' 5. I mean, Wolves had all the possession, but weren't doing anything with it. And George mentioned earlier about his spy in the camp, saying that I said it was like watching paint dry. The only exciting thing in the first half, and most the second half, to be perfectly honest, was watching Bruno Lage on the touchline, because he was all over the place. I've never seen such an animated manager in a long time at St. James's Park. Animated about his own team as well, not animated about decisions that were going the wrong way or anything like that, but he constantly coached his team through that game. constantly shouting at strikers to come back, strikers to move. He doesn't have to do it to the defenders because he's got Connor Cody doing it at the other end, who is exactly the same, by the way. I mean, as a centre half and as a leader and a captain, there's a bloke who talks his way through a game and shouts at everybody else through the game as well. But as I say, we had to wait till the 72nd minute for to get the goal, and I think the lads have summed it up nicely in terms of the way that Chris Wood composed himself, waited for what seemed like an eternity to hit the penalty. But Mitch, Stewie and myself, when we heard about the various competitions that were taking place in training and the penalty shootout competitions in particular that the team were having, because I think up until December, nobody knew who was going to take penalties. They suddenly realised that Callum Wilson wasn't around and he was my usual penalty taker. And I think there was a little bit of a scramble of who should be doing what. And great to think that, after training sessions, players are going out and having their own little penalty shoot competitions with each other. And that says an awful lot for the camaraderie that Eddie Howe's brought in to the squad certainly since the Saudi Arabian trip, but then again replicated in the Dubai trip, and we've had those breaks. So all in all, very, very, very pleasing. As I say, I didn't think it was a game for the purist, but it was the worrying part was there going to be a smash and grab? Now Wolves have a very, very good, strong, solid defence. That's what they've built their pathway up the league on over the last couple of seasons. And there was always the risk, but I think their Achilles heel was they didn't have a striker. The young lad who played up front had a good game, and I think Fabian Sean knew the lad was having a good game because there was quite a little battle going on between the two of them. But when the ball was there and off the field, off the ball rather, there was a couple of little occasions where little dinks came in, etc. But it was all done, combatively. And the way that you would expect from a centre half and a striker, because they both wanted to win the game and they both wanted to win their own individual little duel. So I enjoy watching little things like that. Almiron came on. I was surprised. I didn't expect him to come on, but when you listen to Eddie Howe and he's talking about the way Almiron can shore up little areas, little points within the game that he's looking for. And it does help when he's there, because it means that the other midfielders can move that slightly side across to give ASM that little bit more of freedom. I thought ASM, when he's that example that Mitch was mentioning earlier, where we've all seen the photograph, there's 8 players surrounding him and he's running with the ball. And I think there was 52,000 in that crowd at that particular moment shouting, the corner, get in the corner, run it down, even if it goes out for a throw-in or a goal kick, just get it in the corner. But no, his natural game is that he wants to run and he wants to take people on. It's little things like that I think we've seen it. We've seen the French manager talking about why he's not selecting them for France. It's little things like that within his game that he has to learn if he does want to progress and he does want to be the Ballon d'Or winner, because apparently that's his ambition. So, you know what? We were screaming it. It luckily didn't give them the opportunity when they got the ball off him to then put us back under the pressure that could have potentially brought them back in with a win in the last couple of minutes, because it was injury time at that point, or time added on as it's called now for some ridiculous reason. But we went back into
it's not just for injuries.
Apparently so, yes.
Apparently.
And apparently it interesting you should say that, Mitch, but it never seems to add on the extra 30 seconds or 50 seconds. Or the substitutes.
Yeah, it never adds up.
We'll go on about for the rest of our days. But getting back into the Strawberry, and everyone was just delighted to have the 3 points. And I think what was also important was it meant over the weekend we could be relaxed. We had our 3 points in the bag, and everybody else then had to chase us. So we had an enjoyable weekend, not worrying about what was to come.
I saw that firsthand on the Saturday. A couple of Leeds lads asked us to go down and watch their game with them, because I hadn't seen them for a little bit. And the tension. Yeah. Good God, for the first 45 minutes, he could have cut the atmosphere with a knife. And I'm just sitting thinking, thank God we won last night. Exactly. It just made such a difference. And counterpoint ASM, mine, Steve. The one thing I would say in his favour, it was a similar run like that he then got the back heel through Bolly's legs that put Joe Linton in. That then got with a penalty, and so he can. That's the thing. I think the thing is though, it's the time. It's when do you make a run like that?
Exactly.
And it's 70 minutes. That's far more acceptable. At 89 minutes plus,
Yeah,
maybe it's not so.
Yeah, that's game management, and that's what you learn. I think that's what Eddie Howe and the team will be talking to him about. Saying there's nothing wrong with doing it, but do it at the right time, and make those sensible choices. Sensible footballers, people with a football brain, people who are not necessarily wrapped up in the flamboyant side of the game. And I love it, by the way. I love the flamboyant side of football. We've said it before, Robert and people like that, they were your favourite players because they could do the tricks and they could put passes in and crosses in and they could score goals that nobody else could. I've always liked the flair players all the way through, right from being a kid. But there's time and a place. And that particular one, that just had us worried. That's why we were screaming, get in the corner, get in the corner. But thankfully, nothing came of it. And we got the 3 points and we enjoyed the weekend.
We did. Vince Smith says, I thought the interlinking play between Bruno and Almiron was very good. Do you think for the rest of the season they could try and give him a shot with Bruno? I think there'd be a lot of that kind of thing going on, Vince. I've got to be perfectly honest. And it's been good to see you over the last few days as well. Nice to spend a bit of time in your company. Time to give the shout out to Bruce Out from Stu. He's never said that for a long time. Just enjoys saying it these days. Thankfully, it doesn't have to imply anymore. But a big shout out to our sponsors, Spider Miner Worldwide Coverage, the only cryptocurrency miner that can mine 5 different cryptocurrencies at the same time whilst using virtually no energy, and it's VPN protected. Buy yours now at www.miner.spidervpn.org. Thanks also to skipsandbins.com, telephone 0800 25 45 25 3, email inquiries at skipsandbins.com, website www.skipsandbins.com, easy, contact free and pays you always collection. Thanks also to L&G Family Funeral Directors, 01913897245, and Garden of Healing Dispensary, CBD, hemp and cannabinoid specialists, www.johd.com. Thanks to qtechshop.co.uk, the makers of pool tables and snooker tables in Walls and Newcastle, and the guys who run our website, NUFCmatters.com. And thanks to Cleakai, meet the new game over screen, drop into a ClearRun device near you. Available from Apple Store, Google Play, and clearrun.game. Thanks to Jab Signature, jabsignature.co.uk, and thanks to Media Arts. If you want to subscribe, hit the Newcastle Legends logo in the bottom right-hand corner, and you can subscribe for free. Still doing 7 shows a week. Hit the thumb up to like the video, which is very important. Click share to share to your social media, and drop into the comments box to speak to like-minded Newcastle fans. We're also available on iTunes and Spotify as a podcast. It usually goes up 24 hours after the show has been broadcast. If you want to become a member, get yourself to NUFCmatters.com, look for membership, and you can get your membership pack, which includes a cup, a membership card, pen, and a scarf. And you can also put your smartphone over the QR code, takes you straight to the membership link. If you want to get a car sticker, then simply subscribe to the channel, and then go to NUFCmatters.com and John will send you out your free car sticker. We also support the food bank, NUFC fans, foodbank.co.uk. The matchday bucket is up and running and available 365 days of the year for you to make a donation. Don't forget as well, the Dog and Parrot will see Supermac and Holly this week. She will be taking over my duties for a week. She will be doing the Leicester and the Crystal Palace game and interviewing Malcolm in the Dog and Parrot. So pop along, give her a bit of support. It's free entry, good food, good beer, and a pool table. And Malcolm giving his pre-match and post-match reflections on the game. And don't forget, there's only a few tickets left for the Alan Shearer raffle. And it's to win a signed 260 dinner ball. Tickets are a £5, limited to 99 tickets. Not many left. Enter now at NUFCmatters.com, and we will draw the winner of that ball on Friday night on the Amigos. Okay, as always, on this show we have a section called Ask George, and a few people have got some questions in already. But I suppose I better play George's own little tune. always like these questions, and this one's a cracking one from Mark Edward Brown. He says, "Evening all. Ask George what has been the best and the worst halftime entertainment he's seen. I remember the crowd going nuts when the Alsatian would chase the policeman, and that beats the crossbar challenge any day."
Yeah, there's been a few, hasn't there? The worst for me, and this is a very, very, very personal choice, I'm afraid, was Geordie Dancer. I really struggled to find out what the entertainment was in that, other than the lad being an utter and complete idiot of himself. But never mind. Some people liked it. I'm not sure. I didn't like it particularly. Other things we've had is that I'm trying to think. There was something on with in the 60s sometime. There was a, you talked about Alsatian, that's what triggered it in my mind. There was a dog trials team came on the pitch, and the only thing that was that the dogs hadn't done it before, 50,000 crowd before, so they were all over the bloody place. The dogs are in the crowd, out the crowd anywhere, but they wouldn't get up the tubes. They were trying to send them up, and they wouldn't jump the fences either. So that was another one, which was a complete and utter disaster. So that's two examples I can give it in my time supporting the club.
Great stuff. That's a great question, by the way. And George will give you this one. He says, out of all the games that he's played and watched live at stadiums, apart from St James's, which ground has had the best atmosphere?
Ground. Oh gosh, if it's watching, there's a number. I mean, I struggle to get past the atmosphere at Manchester United at the Tottenham semi-final. That was an incredible atmosphere, an incredible game, and perhaps I'm influenced by the fact that I was with the lads again and being the chauffeur and in that stand when Shearer scored another whacking goal and nearly brought the bloody stand down with the people cheering and jumping around. I have to say, as an engineer, I start to worry when I could see everything swaying the way it did. I thought, my God, we're not even going to get out of here. And that's something that add to that I've never mentioned on here before. I've never mentioned very much before. One of Neil's friends who used to come with us was a policeman, and after the match, they decided they might try and get a pint before we got into the traffic, and we went into this pub. And it would only been in two seconds, and Frecky was saying to everybody, get out, get into the car. So out we went, we got into the car. And about two minutes after we got into the car, a whole host of police cars and police vans arrived doing a drugs bust. And I have to say that for chairman of the bench in Tyneside to be caught in a drugs bust in Manchester could have been quite embarrassing, but that was all part of that match. Anyway, that atmosphere at that game was brilliant. From a personal point of view, a game I've played in was playing for the North of England boys against the South of Scotland boys at Easter Road in Edinburgh, and it was played immediately after the Hearts Hibs derby. So there was still the best part of a 60,000 crowd in the ground when our match kicked off. Now that was a thrill. That was a real atmosphere, and one that I remember, from a personal point of view. So there's two examples of atmosphere, but I still enjoy many of the atmospheres in our home matches. Even now are tremendous, and we've gone back to the sort of days that I remember as a kid. Getting passed over the heads of everybody in the Gallagher end to get me seat on the wall on the running track and all that sort of thing. All of that's come back for me in the last year at least, anyway. And it war flags adds to it. That's all great atmosphere. But the two I've mentioned are one a personal one, and one, as I say, the one at Manchester when we beat Tottenham in the semi-final. That was an atmosphere to remember.
Okay, last one as well. Geordie Tubalai says, who's your favourite international footballer of all time for giving entertainment on the pitch, George?
Oh, it's a toss-up. The one I've seen, I haven't actually seen Pele in the flesh. I've never seen him live. But the one I have seen was Eusebio. the Black Panther, and I have to say, what a player, and what a footballer, and what a sportsman. I mean, he in the match I saw, I'm trying to think who Portugal were playing, but he was getting kicked all over the place, and still he was getting up and shaking hands with the people that he was playing against. No, Eusebio, I would have said Pelé if I'd seen Pelé, but I'd never seen Pelé in the flesh, seen him on the telly. But Eusebio I did see, and the Black Panther was a remarkable player. Beautiful physique, very athletic guy, but also a true sportsman, a real nice lad.
Yeah, great stuff. Thanks for that, George, and thanks for your questions, everybody. Okay, Steve Wilkinson, this is an interesting one from Mark Edward Brown. He says, what do you think of the rumours of being interested in Mikel Merino? Would love to see him in a black and white shirt. I mean, he's been linked, Steve Wilkinson, with Man City, hasn't he? And I mean, I remember him being at Newcastle originally, but he got a bit of a back injury, and we never really saw the best of him. And then he departed under a bit of a cloud, but seems to be highly rated in Spain these days.
Yeah, it's one of those things you always say you should never go back. And would we look at him with a different light? He was quite impressive in a time, where but the team wasn't great at that time. I think when he first came, but he did make some sort of impression. To me, he fits into the camp with all the others. He's like a new player. We've almost got to forget that he's been here before, because if he is somebody that we're showing an interest in, it's for what he's done now, not what he's in the past. And if we do bring him in, we've got to treat him as if it's any other player, just like Bruno was. We've got to treat him based on, on what we see when we first arrive. So I'm not so sure. I think there's a lot of other players. He's playing in a position and in a role that I think we do need to strengthen. I was talking to somebody the other day about the going back to the entertainers time, and we had a decent team, but we're looking to improve on it. And as much as we like Shelby, Joe Linton, and Willock in the roles that they've been playing, and enough to the level that Bruno couldn't get in the team a few weeks ago, we've got to improve on those three if we're going to move to the next level. And going back to the entertainers time, Lee Clark was playing fantastic in there, but we got David Batty in, which was a notch up from Lee Clark, and that's what we've got to be doing. And I think that is a position I would like to see. I think when as lots of discussions are going on, I think we all want to see somebody banging goals in up front, and that's my priority, is to get at least one striker and possibly two that we can rely on to get 20 plus goals, at least one of them to get 20 plus goals. That would be the first requirement to put us where we can get into the top 8. I think is probably where I would be looking to do next season. A creative midfield player is the other one, and Merino, yes, possibly, but there's probably a lot of others to look at as well. And so I'm mixed on that view, as to whether he would be the one to come back and things. Just can I briefly go back to what you were talking about, George, about the atmospheres? George will probably agree with this, and anybody else that was there around the time. Mitch might have been, Steve might have been there. The West Brom away in the FA Cup, that atmosphere then was something to be remembered pre-game and during the game itself, when everybody was shouting away the lads all the time. So that's what 74, 75 time. That was a fantastic atmosphere that the older ones might remember.
Yeah. Mitch, this is an interesting one from Simon Davies. He says, do you think you should go for Lamptey to challenge Trippier? I know we have other priorities, but worried about injuries persistent.
It will be an interesting signing. I think he's a more mobile fullback than what we have at the minute. But I think that would be harsh on certainly Kraft and Mankilo, to be fair. As backups to Trippier, I think we're quite well sorted. I think they've proved that over the last few games. So yeah, I think there are other priorities, and I'll come back to use the phrase used about worried. We're all worried again, and that's what collective mindset is, to be worried. And we've got to stop being worried. We've got to have no fear. Because once the fear goes, we can look forward. Do you think Liverpool fans are worried if Trent Alexander-Arnold goes down? Do you think Man City fans are worried if Walker goes down? No, because they've got a squad and somebody will come in and they don't get worried about it. I don't see any other fan base getting worried about things which are part of the game. We've got to accept it. Injuries happen. And what we've got to do is have a squad that can cope with that. Yes, I think Lamperty would be an upgrade on probably both Mankelo and Shea. And Kraft. And it's probably more like Trippier in terms of a mobile, pacey fullback. But I think that would be that's more icing on the cake stuff than what we actually need to do with the squad. And I think that's where what we're going to focus on first. And if we could pick someone like that up along the way, happy days. Why not? Make the room in the squad for him. And look at that. There's absolutely no doubt our owners, if they see an opportunity to improve our squad, either in first choice or depth, and it's the deal that's the right deal to be done, I think they'll do it this summer. I don't for a minute believe that Dan Ashworth doesn't have a mobile phone and doesn't talk to somebody who can talk to somebody who can talk to somebody. Don't believe that for a moment. And that's why I remember his compensation drops at the end of the season as well to 2 million. And I think they'll pay that. I think that's where the two lines cross. And that feels like a win for everybody. And so I think we should look forward with less fear. If I would implore, we're all still part of the Stockholm syndrome that binds with the Mike Ashley's and Newcastle United, because we've had 14 years of divide, conquer and fear. And let's stop using the word worry or fear, because it's quite exciting now.
Very exciting. I tell you what else will be exciting, and that's if Lucas Paqueta came in, Al Walid. Is that a signing that would excite you? There's been talk today, of course, of the deal potentially, being hijacked by Arsenal. That is indeed if Newcastle are even looking at him. I mean, it's all going to start getting silly in the media again. But Paqueta, I mean, do you think that would be a good player to bring in the summer?
No, actually, because I can't see him join Newcastle. It's not because he's not good; he's a great player. But I can't see more Brazilian in the midfield. If that happens, I believe Eddie Howe will lose the driving seat in the midfield. And he's hardly trying to make the team play in a certain way. So if Brazilian they are skilled by nature. So they're very hard. Usually they're very hard to stay with instructions. They have something by default, kind of same like Saint Maximin, for example. And it doesn't make any sense. Eddie Howe have 2 more years in the contract, and it's able to extend. So I think he will pick the players fit his style of play. So I'm very surprised about the names I read, like Eriksen, Bakit. This is not the player Eddie Howe can really play with. I think he will be very selective, and the player we get in the January, they have something in common. They're really interested to play in Newcastle and very excited, and they have a nice personality. If you can tell, they play for the team. And also, to help the team with the soul and blood. So I think there is some characteristic to choose the players to join Newcastle. Not just anyone. Any player do something or play some good game. Okay, let's bring him to Newcastle. This is not going to happen.
Yeah, Paqueta would be my favourite signing, says Wagner. I love Eriksen's game. I think he'd be great here, but I'm afraid You know why? Paqueta. Yeah, I mean, a lot of people talking about Paqueta. Alan Thompson says, guys, some of the broadsheets, the Guardian Independent, are saying there's been no change at Newcastle. Are we living in Newcastle fans living in a parallel universe? Thoughts? Yes, Stu, I mean, it is going to get to the silly season. The Daily Mail, I think Kenny Ranson's mentioned it in the chat tonight, once again stirring the pot with ASM. Something which we brought up on this show, it has to be said. You know, you and Mitch were talking about it a couple of weeks ago about a little bit of noise coming out that potentially, you know, all may not be well in that department. It does seem to be growing legs. Is it any more views or news on that?
Well, no, I think it was maybe 5 or 6 weeks ago. Both me and Mitch had a discussion, and we mentioned on here regarding the ASM, and it wasn't to be controversial or to stir it. It was just our own opinion, where I know I felt, and Mitch agreed, that I didn't think ASM would have a future. Just his style of play doesn't suit Eddie Howe's. He didn't at the time appear to be a team player, and that's what Eddie Howe's all about. It's the team ethic, and you know, we've seen it on social media with ASM's his social media team, and they're playing a blinder. And if he could play a quarter as good as what they've been producing with these highlight reels and stuff like that, and all this, I know what I need to do. Just do it. You know, do your talking on the pitch, my friend. And you know, it was really heartwarming at the end of the Wolves game when the fans started cheering his name. You know, just to show, because that's what we're like as a crowd. If someone's struggling, we're there to pick them up. And it seemed to rejuvenate him for the last 15, 20 minutes when that happened. But also, what I forgot to mention at my first time around there was Eddie Howe did something similar. We talked about Keegan did after the Wembley visit, and then they beat Man United 5-0. It was the same goalkeeper, it was the same back four from the Tottenham debacle, apart from Kraft come in for Manquillo. Same midfielder, same forward line, and you could see that the onus was on the players to go out and prove that it was just a blip that we all hoped for. But I think some of us feared it wouldn't be. You know, it could have been, has the rot set in? You know, are they in a comfort zone? But again, for the second time this season, the chairman went and spoke to the players. He had a meeting with the players. And I wouldn't say read them the riot act, but I think he may have reminded them of their duties and of their obligations and commitment to Newcastle United. And the last time we did it was after the Cambridge game. We went 9 games unbeaten, or 8 games unbeaten, because we were already drawn one before that. And it was great to see another good response. So I think we have to look at the way the structure, the hierarchy within the club are willing to muck in, roll the sleeves up and stick together. So I have to disagree with Al Walid. I'd love to have Paqueta playing for us. And he's give off the odd snippet that he'd like to as well. You know, he's been to watch one of the games. He seems to like a lot of things that Bruno or Joelton put on the Twitter and things like that. You know, so if Arsenal, we're going to be linked between, without exaggerating, probably 500 players between now and the new season starting. You know, and that's not even an exaggeration. It'll be 500. So
that was just this week, man, Stu.
Yeah, it probably was, George. It probably was. But what we have to take into consideration, and as the words that Mitch said there, is enjoy it, is that anyone that they bring in will be an improvement on what we've already got. You know, so they're not going to throw the money around silly, nearly like what they did at Everton. You know, this will be done with a plan, with a part of a project, and there'll be the right characters, and it'll improve the team. And if you've got quality players who tick all the boxes and want to come to Newcastle, and they can let Arsenal fight us. They fought us for Bruno, didn't they? And I know that he's got a magic hat, and that might be the reason why he came to Newcastle. And I know you don't want us to mention that song, but you know he's bought into it, and he's bought into everything, not just like us, the fans. He's bought into the city. The idea of where this club can go, and you know that's what you want. He's got the hunger to say, I can actually become like the diamond within this pack here, and I can be the leading star. But rather than go and join a team that's supposed to be more star-studded, let's start from the bottom and build your way up. And if he couldn't sell it to his best mates, Paqueta than no one else can. And let Arsenal bid for them. I think we've got more money in the bank than they have. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, going to be interesting. Some of that's for certain. The player profile is important, says Tim, and Howe knows what he's after. Wagner following up now says, I saw many games from Paqueta. I saw him perform well either at the midfield or as a right winger. I think he would fit perfectly as a right winger. Ryan on the ASM says, I honestly don't understand the extreme defence of ASM. I really find him very selfish, but I'm in the minority and I want him gone. It's constantly about ASM, good or bad, and he isn't worth it. And Wagner says that way we can keep Joe Linton and or Shelvey in the team. Shelvey's an interesting one, Steve. He has come good under Eddie Howe, but he is getting on, and we all know how quickly Shelvey's form can turn for the worse. Is there a place in that midfield for Shelvey, Steve, moving forward?
Till the end of the season, possibly, but I'm not too sure whether there is next season. I think there's going to be a refresh and a recharge in central midfield. There's lots of names get bandied around. Paqueta sounds an exciting prospect, big money. I think the way you look at it is, and I've had this discussion with a lad this morning actually. My idea always is there somebody better out there? And if there is somebody better out there, I want them for Newcastle. And I think that's going to be the sort of mindset that's going to be there with Eddie Howe, and more importantly with the owners. They're going to be looking. The people who make the decisions on who's coming into the team alongside Eddie and alongside his coaching staff, because it's not just one person's choice. It's a whole raft of looking at players, looking at what they can bring to the team personally, what they can bring with personality, what they can bring skills. What are we actually looking for? What the style of player is going to be? I think Shelby's, he's pulled his socks up tremendously since Christmas. You can't knock that. It's just whether or not going forward he can do it consistently over another 2 seasons, and I suspect he can't. I'd love to think, and you're looking at Bayern Munich last night, and there's a club who is flatly deceived. I mean, they got knocked out the Champions League again, quarter-final stage, but someone like Joshua Kimmich in their midfield is an outstanding footballer, and I think that's the sort of, if I'm looking at a league where I'm looking for a midfielder who can get up and down, who can stick the foot in, can play for 90 minutes. That's the sort of player that I'm looking for, And for a striker, well, we've all talked about Nunes, but for me, again, looking into Germany, I'm looking at someone like Patrick at Bayer Leverkusen, Patrick Stich. And I think he's another player. He's getting goals. I think he scored something like 29 goals in 51 games for Leverkusen, and I think he could be a really, really good player. Reminds me very much of the lad that Arsenal had, who went to Arsenal, then went to Chelsea, was in and out of the team, French international, and then goes off to Italy and is still banging goals. And it's that sort of style of play. Some people don't like it, some people do. Some people feel as though it doesn't fit in, some people feel as though it does. But I think that's the sort of striker that we could go for, unless we went for the flamboyance and the Nunes type of guy. And I think you also look in midfield and you think we've got a couple of Brazilians, and Al-Walid said there we don't want any more Brazilians, or we shouldn't have any more Brazilians. It's going to be difficult. Let's maybe just get a nasty Argentinian instead. So if the Brazilians are the flamboyant side, let's go for someone who can really get it in, and really stick the foot in and can be nasty with it, because that's what we've lacked sometimes. And I think we all like it. And just to finish off, I think I've got to agree with Steve Bennett, because I was going to say half-time entertainment when they used to drive the car around and the fences were still up in the game.
Yeah.
Go around and the girls would be sitting on the top of the car through the sunroof, and then it would get to Gallagher and the driver would go, get in quick, because he knew when he passed the Gallagher it was just going to be ping, ping, noise. Going to be. Yeah. We've got to question whether or not a sponsor was doing the right thing, sending a lovely brand new car around the track, knowing that for the next week it was going to spend its time in the paint shop.
For me, it was those those huge balls that people used to get in. That was absolutely quality, especially when it was slippy and wet. They were great. Alan, just a quick yes or no answer on this one, guys, because I do want to finish up on something else. Paul Pogba, George, yes or no?
No.
Steve Wilkinson?
Let me just read it. Oh, God, no. Paul Pogba, no, definitely not.
Mitch, Paul Pogba, yes or no?
Not with a curried barge, Paul. Thank you very much.
Alvalid?
You mean Parasite? No.
No. Stu?
No chance.
Steve?
I daren't say anything else other than no now.
No, I definitely wouldn't want Paul Pogba in the team. I'd keep your Ronaldo as well, by the way, the petulant bloke and the act that he did at the weekend. Absolutely.
I'm there, Bruno. We don't want their Bruno either.
Yeah, we'll keep our Bruno. We've got the best one. He has got a magic hat as well. I'm going to succumb to that. There you go, Holly. Tim, we're going to finish up with Tim's question, George. He says, question, lads, what's your match food choice? Because I see the chicken balti pies have gone. So what is your favourite pre-match meal, George?
Strongbow for me.
There you are. Stu's chipped in straight away. Strongbow for him.
Well, when we all used to be about 10 hours ago to the match at one time at Boy in 92. And my favourite was a very straightforward one. And that was when the pucker pies first came in. I hadn't seen a pucker pie till I went into St James's Park, and I loved the pucker pies. They were great.
Okay, Steve, what about you?
Well, I don't know if I've had much to eat in the ground. They used to have those hot dogs that used to go down the middle of the. It was about a foot long, but there was like a hole in the middle of it, and the hot dog went all the way down. I used to have one of them at times, but for now, even nowadays, I would go and get the top of Northumberland Street and get a sausage sarnie from Milligan's and a bit of brown sauce on.
See, now that's me. Bacon, crispy bacon, and mushrooms from Milligan's. Perfect, mate.
That's the other week. I get that the other week, the bacon ones.
Or from that little pantry place, which is opposite the back page on St Andrews Street. Yeah. They do nice bacon sandwiches. Mitch, what about you?
In Goodfellas is in a hotel called the Rami Rose, which is Indian owned, and they've got a very good Indian restaurant in there. So if we do have anything in there, it's usually the chicken tikka. But mind you, you do regret it the next morning sometimes.
Yeah,
and Johnny Cash playing in the background.
Yeah, well, Alwaleed, I'm looking forward to Alwaleed because we did try some special Saudi dishes when Alwaleed made his trip over to the UK. So, is it one of those dishes that we sampled, or is it something different that you like to have before you watch it?
For me, but personally, do you mean in the stadium or in the home?
Stadium. Before you go to a match, if you went to a football game, what would be your preferred food?
Usually, if the game is important to me, I can't eat. I can't eat either usually before, because if my team lose after the game, I can't eat as well. So I eat always before. But like for example, for now, as I'm just a break, 1 hour ago, the Ramadan fasting, I'm excited about Manchester City and Atletico today. I'm alone today at home, and I'm gonna order shawarma. I don't know if you are familiar with shawarma.
Yeah.
Mitch, no.
Chicken.
Shawarma is, it's a chicken, but it's grilled
like
a different way, and in the wrap and the sandwich, and I love it with the garlic usually, and sometimes pizza and sandwiches in general.
Brilliant, good stuff. All right, Stu. If you had to spoil the Strongbow by having something to eat, what would you have?
Depends what time the kickoff is. Like if it's an afternoon kickoff, then it'll be I'll probably just a Greg's sausage roll. But if I'm in Scotland, which I will be this weekend, I'll be a Scotch pie. Just quite simple. Something to hold there, soak the stodge up.
Okay, and Steve.
If it's on the way to the game before I've left the house, then you can't beat a bacon sandwich with red sauce or a sausage sandwich with brown sauce. So just get that right. And then I'm one of these people who has boycotted buying food in the ground for the last 14 years. So if I'm going to eat anything, if I'm in the town and I haven't had a bite to eat, I'll nip the Costa and I'll have one of their toasties with the cheese on the top and usually ham, something like that inside. So that's mine.
Brilliant stuff. It's Andrew's birthday this weekend. Happy birthday, Andrew. He says, can you arrange a 3-1 win for me, Stu?
Love to. I'd love to. I'm already on it, so I hope he wins for his birthday. Happy birthday in advance.
Good stuff. All right, that's as always a fantastic show with the guys. Thanks to George, thanks to Steve, thanks to Mitch, Al Walid, Stu, and Steve Hasty. And just do us a favour, folks, if you haven't watched already, please tune in to Ross Gregory's show from yesterday. It was a cracking show. It's his debut. Liam Kennedy's having a little bit of a sabbatical. He will be back in the summer. But please tune in to Ross Gregory's. Have a watch back because it was a great show and he's a welcome addition to the channel. And don't forget, Ian Mearns is back on Friday for a one-off appearance. Go on, George.
So can I finish with a 30-second rant?
Quickly.
Like the lad said, it was great to be free of football on Friday night and relax. So I decided to absorb what I was going to be the greatest game ever, Manchester City versus Liverpool. And it was a good game. But I was sick to death of the pundits before and after the game and during the game keep telling me that it was the two best teams in the world, managed by the two best managers in the world. Well, I've got news for them. They can't take a bloody throw-in either.
Fantastic. There we go. A George rant. He's after another little. He's after another little bit of music and something else there, isn't he? Yeah. Well, that's great. Well done. Great show, lads. Speak to you all soon. Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Cheers, everyone. Take care.